All right, guys, we're gonna fire off another one. Let's get after it. All right, guys, welcome back. This is one of those projects where stress is a little bit of a factor in the project because the equipment we're working on is worth a lot of money. So I'll tell you guys what we got. So the person we're doing this project for is very involved in vehicle tuning, and he runs race cars, and he's just very involved in hot rod, automobile, racing, that type of world. And he recently bought a brand new race trailer that has a lift in it so he can haul his cars when he goes and does races. Well, he got the trailer, and the winch that was supposed to come with the trailer and should have been all mounted and ready to go was not. So he was pretty ticked, but he didn't want to take it back to the factory because they had already ticked him off and he wasn't real happy with their work. So he got my number through a friend, got a hold of me. He showed me what he had in mind. So we looked at his trailer. You'll be able to get to see that. Pretty impressive. But the winch that they supplied in the trailer when he bought it was a 4,500 pound winch. He told me when I went there to check out his trailer, his race cars are right around 4,500, maybe even a touch more. So it was my advice, if you're gonna be a bear, be a grizzly. Get something bigger because you don't want to have to be fighting it or replacing it or whatever because it's undersized. He said, you know what? I think I've got a winch in my shop. And so we walked in his shop and he had this winch sitting there. This is a 10,000 pound winch. He says, there's one right there. Will that work? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. We checked the measurements on it to make sure it would fit in the cabinet, and it does. And when I say cabinet, you guys will see what I mean. This actually mounts in a cabinet, and when he needs to pull a race car in, there's a garage in the front of the trailer. He'll open the door, pull the winch cable out, hook up to his race car, pull it in the trailer, raise it up, pull the winch cable back out, pull in the second race car. It's pretty impressive, but we're gonna get this set up for him. So I've already got eyes on the project. I know that I'm gonna have to build a base for this. It's gonna have some brakes on the sides of it with a couple flanges on the bottom. There will be bolts that mount through the flange, through the floor, into a cross member. The cross members run lengthwise with the trailer. We're gonna have to weld in two pieces of channel that run perpendicular to the cross members so that it's tied to the frame. If you're pulling that kind of weight, you can't just rely on sandwiching it through the floor. This is the other reason that it was good that he came to me to do this and to put this in, because if he would have relied on what the trailer did, the trailer manufacturer, they put in a piece of 10 gauge plate underneath and expected that to hold to pull his race cars up into the trailer. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't hold, but I am saying if it was my trailer, there's no way I would rely on that. I don't feel like that's structurally sound. We're gonna overbuild it like we usually do so that it doesn't ever give him problems. Not to mention, when you're dealing with a trailer of this caliber, we gotta make sure we get this right. So to start out, we're gonna pull the winch out of the box. We're gonna get our measurements. We gotta get a bolt pattern off of it. And then I'm gonna start, just like I always do, putting it on paper. I'm gonna make a drawing. We'll go over to the burn table, start drafting it. Just the usual process. So the first thing we got to do is build the base for it. Once we get the base built, then it's ready to mount. Then we got to do some field work. That trailer is so big that it won't fit in this shop. So I'm going to have to go up there with my engine drive and stick weld the cross member pieces in. Then we'll be able to drill our holes, and it's going to take a little time. Let's go ahead and get this unboxed. We'll put some eyes on it. We'll get our measurements. We'll get a drawing going, and we'll go from there. The box says it weighs 90 pounds, so I believe it. Okay, pretty simple. 4 bolt holes. There's a bolt pack here. We got our square nut here. So we take the square nut and we slide it into that slot. Now that we know how it's gonna work, I'm gonna get my measurements on my bolt centers here. This is the other area where CNC shines, because we'll be able to pull our measurements on our bolt centers, lay it out on the computer. We can overburn our holes just a 1/16 of an inch and should be able to just drop the bolts right in and tighten her down. So now comes the brainstorming part. So now that we know how the winch needs to mount, now comes the hard part. Now we just start brainstorming and come up with a design that's going to be functional and that's going to work well and be as easy as possible on us when it comes time to anchor this to our cross member. And originally I was thinking that I would probably have to weld 2 pieces of channel, but I'm wondering if the channel's wide enough, if I can put 1 piece in and fit both of these in 1 piece of channel. So I'm gonna go over and look and see how wide it is and see if that's gonna work. And then I'm gonna start drafting up a rough draft drawing here. Once I dream up an idea and we're ready to burn it, I'll give you guys a look. All right, guys, so I think I've generated an idea here that I think is gonna work. So this is the base that the winch is gonna mount on. And this is a front view. And the reason there's all these scribbles is because that's how I do things. The reason this front section has 2 holes here is because I was reading the manual, and the fair lead mounts to a plate which is not included, so that's nice to know. So I'm glad I read the manual, because this front piece, the fair lead, is going to mount to this. If you don't know what a fair lead is, it's got 4 rollers on it, and it's what guides the cable and keeps it from rubbing on everything else, and that has to mount to something, so that's why we're going to make this. That's kind of my plan. I've got this first plate drafted up. It's got the 4 mounting holes for the winch, and then it's got the 4 mounting holes that'll be on the outside flange that will mount to the frame. So I'm going to cut this piece out first. I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to break it. The reason I'm going to do it that way, I'm building it out of 3/8 plate instead of quarter, because it says the minimum size plate you should mount it to is quarter, and I don't really like going minimum on that kind of stuff. So we're going to use 3/8 plate. I'm going to break this first. That way I'll be able to pull a measurement off of my brake lines and be able to know exactly what it is and exactly what's going to give me the right joint for my weld. So I'm going to go ahead and get this first one burned. And once I burn this first plate, I'm going to lay it out. We'll get breaking it. And then once we get that broke, as long as everything works the way I hope it does, we'll be able to get our measurements and start drafting the front plate and the back plate. So let's go to that point. Burn, baby, burn. All right, time to do a little cleanup. I've ran into this before. And what I did last time is unbolt one end, slide the part in, break it, slide it out. Son of a gun. I need to get that freaking press going. It may be happening sooner than I was planning. Okay, I gotta figure this out, regroup, and I'll get back to you guys. All right, guys, I want to get you up to speed on what I've been doing tonight. So I got right back on the burn table and I designed the front and the back plate that mount to our base. I did finish breaking this. It was a nightmare. I've got to get a better press brake. That thing just doesn't cut it for stuff like this. Hopefully you guys can see what I got going here. So this is the base. The winch mounts on top of this. We've checked our bolt pattern. Everything matches up. The bolts on our flanges look good. This piece here is gonna weld there. That's gonna beef it up. We're gonna weld this 100% open corner. So then we have this piece here, and it's gonna mount on the front. Same thing, open corner on the sides. We will weld this solid on the inside here. The reason it sticks up the way it does is because our fair lead This is a fair lead. It mounts in these holes right here. It is going to be kind of tricky fitting this up because our brakes aren't exactly square. That was part of the reason I was fighting it. And because it's not square, I'm going to have to take the port of power and just tweak this out just a hair while I tack this on. Once I tack this on, it's going to hold it in place where it needs to be. It really just pisses me off because I'm anal and I want my brakes to be 90 degrees, and you just can't feather that brake. It's getting to be time where I just need to pull the trigger on something better. So we'll jump into time lapse and we'll start fitting this up and tacking it, and we'll give you a look right before we weld it out. All right, so we got this all mocked up, so I want to give you guys a look. I'm still toying with the idea of putting some gussets right here just to strengthen this plate up. The back side matches the front side as far as the gap here, and the reason I designed it like this is so you can still get your hand in here to tighten the bolts and loosen them. The flanges are sitting pretty flat on the table. I'm pretty happy with how it all came together. I think that's going to work just dandy. Once I get the gussets tacked on, I'm going to go ahead and start welding it out, and then once I get it welded, I'll give you guys a look. All right, guys, time for an update. Got her all welded out. I sure do like the way that open corner flows. We got our gussets welded in. Got her all cleaned up. I think I'm gonna go in the house, eat some dinner, watch some Lonesome Dove, and go to bed. All right, guys, so we got our base all painted and it's ready to go. Me and Bridger are gonna drive up the street to this guy's house. We're gonna get it put inside the cabinet and mount it on the floor. We've got to be able to center it up and drill our holes so that we know where to put our cross members underneath the trailer. We can't figure out what length to cut our cross members until we have those holes drilled. So that's going to be the next order of business. So we'll catch up with you guys when we get up there. Well, we're on our way. But who's at the wheel? Hope we make it okay. Wish us luck. All right, guys, we're here. So we'll give you guys a look here. Pretty nice. That's the controls for the air compressor. There's the garage, and there's the lift. So it is a double decker, so you can stack 2 cars in here. Pretty impressive. So here's where the batteries and the pump are for the lift. We are going to have to wire in this winch, so we'll be coming in here with the cable, probably tying in right there. So I just wanted to give you guys a look. This is the cabinet here where the winch goes. So there's the puny 4,500 pound winch that it came with. So we'll pull that out and we'll get our base set in here. And then we'll start looking at where we want to mount it and start getting laid out to drill our holes. So let's do it. I'm going to grab a tape. I'm going to center this up. I am going to keep it kind of close to the opening on the door, and then we'll drill a pilot hole to make sure where we're hitting first. And as long as everything looks okay, then we'll go ahead and give her the onion. All right, guys, so hopefully you can understand what's going on here. Now this cross member over here is on an angle. We need this angle so that when we cut our support, we have this angle on it. This end is going to be square. This end over here needs that angle on it. I like the strength of a piece of channel. The problem is these bolts are so far apart that I need like an 8-inch piece of channel to make this work, or a 10-inch piece of channel. So I may see if I can find a rem piece of 10-inch channel. That way we can bring it up here, buff off the undercoat on both sides. I'm gonna pull the measurements for this bolt pattern and I'll drill these at the shop. Then I'll be able to put it up here, tack it, weld it out. Or at least that's the plan. I just wanted to give you guys a look at what we've got to do here. There's a lot of good things going on here though. Our bolts, and we actually didn't plan this part, but this is either I-beam or channel. And our bolts are straddling that cross member right there. So that's going to give it even more support. So when we have our support in here and it sandwiches everything together, I think that's going to be really strong. Once in a while you do get lucky. So we're going to pull our measurements and then we'll crawl out of here and probably head back to the shop. All right, guys, so we got back to the shop. And after looking around at what our options were and what kind of material we have, I decided it would be better to just build our own piece of channel. So I had a whole slew of 3/8 plate. We're gonna build our own piece of channel. So what we did is we drafted it, we cut it with the angle that we need in it, which was 108.5 degrees, I believe. So you can see that it comes up square here, there's an angle here, and then it's square here. So I'll go ahead and lay this out and that'll give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. It is more than 24 inches wide. That's a problem for us because our brake is only 24 inches wide. So it's actually like 24 3/4. It will fit, but it does stick out of the die just a little bit. I'm gonna see if it'll work anyway. We don't really have another option. So we forgot our bolt pattern on here, so Bridger's probably gonna drill this after. It'll be good practice for him. It would be good practice for me if I just remember. So we'll go ahead and get this over into the brake. I think I'm gonna start with the big side because if this doesn't work, we're gonna be back to the drawing board. So, okay, fire in the hole. That ain't even gonna try. Ha! That's just one more indicator. It's time to get a break. All right, well, we're gonna be done for the night then. We gotta figure out something different for this. I'll probably just go into the scrap yard and see if they got a piece of 8-inch channel. Pick that up, we'll cut our angle with the bandsaw and that'll work. Having the right equipment makes a difference. All right, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. What's going on, guys? We're back out in the shop today and we're gonna give you an update on where we're at. We did have a few complications trying to find a piece of channel. I called in to the suppliers that I usually get my steel from, asked them if they had a rem piece that was big enough. I asked them if they had a piece that was even substantially bigger, and they didn't. So I didn't feel like paying $500 for a 20-foot length of channel so that I could cut 30 inches off. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build our own. We're gonna go with our backup plan on this one. We took the piece that we were gonna break, put it on the burn table, and did a rip cut on both sides. We were able to get it pretty dang accurate. It's within like a 1/16 the whole way. So for something like this, that's plenty good. So we've got it laid out, our bolt pattern. Once Bridger gets this drilled and we get ready to fit it and weld it out, we'll give you guys a look. Sorry. Go ahead. Well, start that, grab your slider. Anything like already. All right, guys, so here's our piece of makeshift channel. You can see I've got a couple supports tacked onto here to keep it from spreading or shrinking. I'm going to start with the open corners first. I may triple pass these. We'll see how it goes. But that's what we're looking at. We'll go ahead and weld this out, and once we get it done and we're ready to haul it up there, we'll give you an update.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night.
All right, guys, so we got this all welded out, but it is hotter than a firecracker. So we're gonna leave it here and let it cool. And we've got some bad weather rolling in. It's supposed to be crappy weather for the next 2 days, so we may not get to this tomorrow. I do have some other stuff I've got to get done in the shop. We may have to get back to this one in about 3 days after the weather blows through. We'll see how it goes. So we're gonna let this cool. It's all ready to go now, so the next time we see you, we'll be up there and we'll be ready to stick weld this on. So we'll see you guys up there. All right, guys, apologize for the wind. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We're all set up here. We should be ready to start work. We're gonna crawl under there now and we're gonna see if we can fit this up. We gotta grind the undercoat off, and then once we get that done, we'll see if our plate fits and see if we can get it tacked up. But we'll crawl under there and we'll give you a look right now. Okay, we're back in the shop. Hole pattern was wrong. That was my fault. So we're welding up these holes. We're gonna recut 2 of them, and then we'll be able to get back up there and give her another try. But this is real world. We show our mistakes because that's how you learn. So we're just welding up the holes. Bridger's got the mag drill set up again. I'm gonna lay out the hole pattern again, only right this time. Woo! And then we'll re-drill them. We do it nice because we do it twice. All right. Got our holes repaired. Now we're gonna lay them out and re-drill them. This is why I don't work with wood. Someone like me needs to be able to glue it back together. Better check our measurements here. And this could be a little interesting. Now that we've welded it, the steel's probably harder than the back of your granddaddy's skull, so. Hey. All right, guys, it's hard to get a good frame on the camera because we're so close to our work here, but you can see the bolts fit good. We got a good fit. We've ground all the undercoat off, so she's ready to weld. So now I'm just gonna go to welding, and I'm gonna weld this solid around here, around there, everywhere I can get to on both sides to both cross members. We'll go ahead and start laying it down and get back to you once we get it welded. All right, guys, hopefully you can hear me in the wind, but we got this all welded out. So we ended up running 2 passes with 332 7018 all the way around. All right, we're gonna shoot it with some paint. Once we get it painted, we're gonna crawl out of here. We gotta figure out how to wire it up. Once we got that figured out, we'll come back to you and give you an update. We finally got this one wrapped up. We'll give you one last look at what we had to do and walk you through the electrical and final product. All right, so you can see our winch is mounted. It's all bolted down. Fair lead is installed. Our electrical We were able to punch a hole through the floor right there. You can see we did put that plastic conduit stuff that you can buy at the auto parts store on there just to protect the cable. We had a hard time finding cable, battery cable by the foot. You can get it on Amazon and there's some other places online, but I needed that cable so I could get this one wrapped up, and we just couldn't find it. So I ended up just buying a set of jumper cables that were 16 feet long and cut that cable, and it actually worked out perfect. I got it routed into the junction box here, wired in. Our remote cable's here, and it actually runs through this little doghouse right here. As far as inside the battery box, it did come with this bus bar that you're supposed to put on the positive side, and then this is the cable that goes to our winch. It routes out the hole down in that corner. We got our ground cable hooked to the battery there, and that's about it. Nothing too exciting there. So all that's left to do here is try this bad boy out. So we got a big old heavy load on the end of this cable. Good night. So we're gonna pull Bridger across the deck on this lift and see if it can handle that kind of load. All right, you ready? Fire in the hole. Woo! Oh yeah! That's probably gonna hurt your back if we don't stop you there. So she works. This one definitely had some challenges. We ended up having to cut down where the fair lead mounts because, silly me, I made another mistake as far as height goes. I thought the cable came off the spool on the top. It actually comes off on the bottom. So I took the same pattern, kind of U-shaped pattern, and I just had to move it down. So I just lowered that front plate is all I had to do. Re-drilled 2 holes, and then we mounted our fair lead to that. It wasn't too big a deal, but it's one of those things where you're mad at yourself because you didn't see it in the beginning. So we did have to modify that. Wiring wasn't too bad once we found the jumper cable. It's done. I think the customer's going to be happy with it. It is rock solid. I think if you accidentally hook that on something that you don't want to, it will tear whatever it is out of this trailer. So he's going to have to be careful because that is solid. And that's what we wanted. If you're going to be pulling race cars up here, it's got to be solid. I don't think he's going to have to worry about it now. So pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it's going to wrap this one up. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you on the next one. All right, so now that we know how the hitch, goodness, where did hitch come from? Okay, so that we can try to get it somewhat mounted and pull some measurements for our cross members that are going to mount lockup, loading. Me and Bridger are going to drive up the street, and we're just gonna take a drive up the street. Goodness. Let's try that again. Now you can stop. Okay. All right, guys, so we got our base all painted. It's ready to go. We're just because I feel like if it's further, I think you're going to move. I think if you accidentally, goodness. All right, guys, so we came back to the shop. We just drafted and burned our, I'm going to start over. Wait, record this, you nerd. Okay, that's good. Put it away.